Hello everybody and welcome back to day one of our brand spanking new North American LCS Spring Split. Now, XDG versus Cloud9 is coming up next, but first, let's break down that last win by Cursed. Kobe, what you got for us?
Yeah, I mean, like Jad said, this game was so close. It could have easily been the complete opposite story here. It was really a game of split-second plays. In that last Baron, they talked about the Varus ult being targeted to dominate and locking him down. Annie also flashed to try and follow it up with the Tibbers. Didn't quite get him in time, and that was the only reason, he was able to get into that Baron pit for the miraculous steal.
Yeah, I actually really liked the amount of individual plays these guys got to make on Curse, because to me it seemed like they were more set up to make these plays. The combos I liked was, I wanted to see when I didn't though, Elise Repel into Lulu ult into Yasuo kills the team. It's more complex than Trundle Pillar Yasuo ult that we saw in Challenger last night, but I thought there were cool synergies there. The other thing that really struck me was that Coast had this siege comp ready. It's like they've got the Varus poke, the Nidalee poke, the siege is there, but they never really got to start it because it felt like they were afraid of the Mundo teleport, which we saw a couple of times. Quash showed up to a fight early, got there way before a Zion Spartan, and Zion, who's immobile in his lane, never actually took his opponent out. So he's just sitting there treading water, and then one of them leaves and helps his team for a 5v4.
Exactly. They didn't really get to ever set up that poke composition at a turret with their whole team there, have a good front line, make use of the pillar slows to kite backwards when they needed to. It never really came together for them. But I did like the comp and the fact, they brought a lot of that CC from the bottom lane, just split seconds there at the very end, and they weren't able to chain it. Yeah,
well, speaking of split seconds, though, Kobe, you've got a replay for us of a really interesting fight with a couple of really close shavings there. If we can get the replay on your screen, guys, it's a really fun one. It's the Mundo teleports in, and it becomes really interesting.
Okay, so talking about, this game could have either gone either way. This one is where it did go the other way. Coast actually end up getting the Baron off of this, even though they get initiated on. So let's roll a clip here. We'll roll it at 50% speed, and we can see that Curse get a really good initiate. They're ahead right now, and they get a whole bunch of free damage on Nintendo. The tank is walking away right now, and Voyboy gets to get all these crit-heavy auto attacks off. They take out the tank very early, but they also had to use the Lulu ult here, and Dominate did miss 2 cocoons in a row to not lock down the high priority targets here. WizFusion kind of missed the flash there into the corner, but Voyboy is able to follow it up here, and a crit gets him right through that barrier. So he's able to take out one and then get the ignite down on Annie, low enough for one more shot from Cop to have her burn down. This is where it really gets interesting, though. They're burning down Zion Spartan. He looks like he's dead. Giant heal from Nidalee, plus, there goes the ultimate from him. These are Spirit Visage enhanced heals that get them right back into the game, almost back up to 50% HP, and they're able to keep on running. Here's the point, though, that's kind of sad for Curse. Dominate, I think he might have been going for Shifter here with the Cocoon, because he throws it right past Zion. They end up getting neither of them, and that means that not only do they not get a kill, but the spear just barely misses the spider hitbox and does find Mundo's back.
Yeah, so some really good plays there. The kiting back from Nid, and the one thing I actually really liked there from Nidalee was she didn't constantly throw a javelin. She was waiting for the good one.
Yeah.
Right. Stopped to heal his teammate. Okay, fine. But then was like, and now I can get Mundo past his spider. It was pretty awesome. So again, a pretty fun game. I think unfortunate for Coast there. Nintendo, I thought, was one of the best smiters from last season, but the curse, as Jat mentioned, clearly broken. Well done by Dominate.
Yeah, that was just a good combo by him, and not like it was easy to get in there, too. He had to fight through so much CC just to even get inside. I thought they were going to have Mundo teleport earlier onto the ward because Baron was getting so low, but they really had faith in his ability to steal.
And it was so incredibly close. I watched it again in slow-mo, and immediately after the flash, he's already smiting, basically. There's such a tiny, tiny window when he gets it. And actually, speaking of tiny windows, a random note. The TSM game where the Nunu gets the Dragon Consume Smite stolen with the Peacemaker, both the Smite and Consume went on cooldown. There was a 1-frame window between the Smite hitting and the Consume dealing damage that the Peacemaker took it. I watched it 4 times in quarter speed. Alvin had that time down to a 2-frame window, and the Peacemaker took it in there. It was pretty crazy. I just wanted to point that one out because we're not going to see it again. But I thought that was really interesting.
So you got Odd One's back here?
I got Odd One's back here.
Not quite his fault.
He got robbed. The ref should be fired for that one. That was totally Red Team's Dragon.
Smite stealing is a lot harder than it looks.
It is. So it's pretty difficult. All right. Now, of course, these guys have more games to play, right? Curse has got to put some more got to kind of has some more games in their plate. They've got more things to do. They've got to get some new strats. Coast the same way here. How do you think these teams are headed for the rest of the week?
I think Curse looked really good, actually. Quas getting Mundo, that's definitely a huge bonus for them because he loves that champion. And then Yasuo. Voyboy, I remember watching him right when he came back from break, and he was having some iffy games on Yasuo. The learning curve's pretty high on him, but he definitely had some good plays here.
All right, so well done there to Curse, guys. Let's send it back over to Jat and Riv at the caster's desk.
Thank you very much, Freak. And now it is time for our next matchup. It's XDG versus Cloud9. And Jat, last split, Vulcan, now XDG, did give Cloud9 a lot of trouble and the first loss.
And their two of the three losses were the big things. And not only did they have their number, they really crushed their KDAs as well. I checked their, Mediosa had a 3 KDA against Vulcan and 19 against everyone else. It was really a tricky thing. But, Cloud9 did dominate their first game against TSM because they picked Teemo. Also because they're a good team. But Teemo was a large part of that win. And instead of the fast-paced Cloud9 dive style we used to see, it was very methodical. They took every Baron, every Dragon, then they killed all 11 turrets on their way to the Nexus.
But it's not XDG that we saw before. This team has made some changes, mainly with Zuna moving into the jungle and Xmithy on ADC.
Yeah, I think someone said Zuna 1, Reddit 0 was the score so far because nobody thought Zuna would make a big play. 6-0-15 in his debut in the jungle. One game at a time. You can. As soon as you mess up again, Reddit wins again. Xmithy also played well.
Forever.
6-0-8 on his AD carry, swapping from jungle to AD. This isn't the one that people were doubting so much because everyone respected Xmithy as a jungle towards the end of the last split. He did a great job as AD carry as well.
Yeah, and him and Zuna had some cross-map synergy as well with those rockets from Jinx.
Nice.
They knew what they were doing. We'll see how well Xmithy and Bloodwater perform against the bot lane duo that has been working together for a full split. A pair that they know when to trust each other and when not to.
I think for bot lane, the biggest thing is trust. You don't have to think like each other, you just have to trust each other and trust that they will make the right decision.
But if we're both committed and then we both die, we're like, okay, that's pretty bad.
There's sometimes where I go in on one guy and he goes in on the other and we just lose a trade. We're like, oh my god.
Crab was rather emotional about the game in general, not only in games that matter, tournaments, but also in solo queue as well.
I'm really good at shifting the blame. I never make mistakes.
He goes in as Thresh and is super deep into the team and just throws me a lantern and baits me to click it. And I'm like, I'm not clicking that. Just click it.
Yeah, sometimes I get those bad games where I'm 50 CS down, 0-3, and I'm like, yeah, I'm probably just gonna farm this whole game now.
If we're not doing too good, we're just like, guys, we're not doing too good bottom, please carry us.
If you ever enter a solo queue and you play with a player that you've never played with before, you will undoubtedly, at one point, get annoyed at what he's doing. And that's why you need to train so much till you get on the same plane, the same level, and you know exactly what people are doing, even without saying it.
Just click it.
Just
click it.
What could possibly go wrong?
Nothing. You have a shield.
Yeah. It takes you right to the Papa Thresh.
You're perfectly
nice
fine.
Happy man over there.
It's a totally controlled system of travel. Just take it. Let's check out the starting lineups moving into this game. On the blue side, it is going to be XDG. Benny in the top lane, Zuna still in the jungle, ManCloud in mid, Xmithy at AD carry, and Bloodwater at support.
And on the red side, of course, it is Cloud9 with balls in that top lane, Meteos in the jungle, High on mid lane, Sneaky on AD carry, and Lemon Nation on support.
Something that was funny about that video was when TX Special and Wild Turtle were like, when we lose, we just say carry us. And it's actually seen in TSM's play. If their bottom lane does bad, they're like, we are leaving you guys in the dirt, and we're going to farm these other lanes. Odd one, only mid and top, go.
It's interesting, actually, because I'd say as far as successful teams in North America go, both Vulcan last split, XDG this split, and Cloud9 were the least reliant on their AD carries to carry. Sneaky oftentimes.
No, wow, that's a really good point.
Sneaky oftentimes would bring crowd control reliant people, and ManCloud is generally the one relied on to carry for XDG.
And that's changed a little bit. We see Sneaky already trying to build that AD carry on Caitlyn, as she is, trying to build Caitlyn in a stronger AD carry. Can't really put utility on it. But it's the same thing, right? We're not seeing Sneaky on Ezreal anymore. He's being more aggressive on his champions.
I wonder if Ezreal's going to make a bit of a comeback. It hasn't been necessary.
We have enough poke comps, but then Lucian falls into place.
Yeah, Lucian,
Caitlyn.
you got Varus works very well. Definitely Lucian. That works very, very well with those poke combos because he can disengage so well.
And it's when's the next champion that is going to surface, right? Because the champions we have had surface haven't had super alterations or changes. We saw Tabi bring out Annie in the Worlds. We saw a lot of people picking up Lucian recently because he's a lane boy. Maybe a few changes there. But they kind of just...
This game.
Then Trundle came back out of nowhere. What are they going to do this time? What are you looking at, Lemon Nation? What are you looking at?
He's looking at his book of notes.
He's
able to bring it in for picks and bans, and then he has to give it back to the refs after the game.
Yep.
They always trust him with that. Even if Sneaky does not trust him all the time, they trust him with picks and bans.
That's another thing when you have Sneaky, something Lemon Nation said, or something that we have said about Lemon Nation is that he just harvests these AD carries and makes them great as he builds them up.
Long ago, yeah.
Yeah, long ago. Is that Sneaky is versatile. Remember, he used to bring out Jace. So he can play in like an uncomfortable position during his games and be okay. And mentality is one of the biggest things that you'd hear any player talk about. If you keep your mentality up, the game always seems winnable.
You could definitely call Sneaky an underrated AD carry.
Yeah.
Because everyone talks about how Cloud9 is just so good as a team, or Lemon Nation brings around AD carries. Yet consistently, Sneaky has some of the highest KDAs, despite not being able to get all the farm. He's on the best team in North America most of the time. Top of solo queue, right? And people are always just like, oh, you know, maybe he's top 5.
Really?
It happened.
Really? Really?
See, it took Darian a couple tries to get Warwick banned. It happened on the first try for high. That's got to mean something, right?
You know what? Looking at the objective control, as the analyst Des said, in all those mushrooms, that is really just something you don't want to play against in the first place. Maybe if there were an Oracle still in the game, you didn't have to sweep these things out.
Yeah, I think there's definitely just the element of surprise from XDG so far. They say, all right, they have Teemo strategy. We have no idea what the hell to do against that. Ban. They can live with it because they're first pick.
The thing is that Teemo's not the strategy. It's what they put around it, and that's what makes it so scary. You just get mushrooms out of it. So, yeah, they're like, well, what could you do?
We'll see. We'll see why they banned
everywhere. KL getting banned out as well. They do not want to give that to ManCloud, and thanks to Overpow over in Europe, we really see a lot of KL come back. Didn't never really fall to the wayside too much, but thanks, Overpow.
Yeah, and it's funny how right as Zed starts falling away from the game, Kale rises to prominence. You'd think that Kale was a great counter to Zed. We saw Alex Each use it at a counter during Gamescom in the playoffs last year for Season 3. And I think everyone was just training up Kale and learning it, and they're like, all right, I'm ready to go with Kale. Guess I'll just play it anyway, even if Zed's not there, and it works great.
It's a scary champion to have, knowing that a champion will always reach its time bomb-esque form when you're always just going to be able to two-shot by Kale and she'll take your turrets down in the same amount of time. You don't want that. You don't want to two-shot turrets. Well, you do. The other team, though. Very slow picks, or I should say ban phase. But the Kazakhs,
let's see.
The single target focus.
Kazakhs has been banned every game so far. Teemo has been banned just the once. First pick Elise for the second game in a row. And this could be the Zuna Elise. So we'll see. That's one of the higher mechanical junglers.
I was going to point that out.
It's not that Olaf isn't a high mechanical jungler. Elise is just a little bit more.
More chance to mess up, if you will.
I like this. Yasuo very early for high. He's been playing a whole bunch of it in solo queue. He's done very well on it. And already they have one guy who can synergize with his ult. Shyvana ults in, that displacement creates the ult from Yasuo.
We haven't talked about dive buddies in a long time. Yasuo really creates a dive buddy synergy once again. People that'll go in, people that will displace a champion, whether that's in the air or left or right, displace you from your original position. That's useful to Yasuo.
Yeah, there was just the coolest synergy that happened yesterday. I was casting with Freak for the European Challenger Series. It was actually the game that knocked Ocelot out of the Challenger Series as well, but they had Yasuo, Trundle, and Xin Zhao. And the reason it worked so well together, I'm just telling the story over top of this.
Yeah. They're going slow.
Is because the Trundle Pillar's displacement created an opportunity for Yasuo to ult, and then that's a bit flawed in itself because then Yasuo is the only one in the middle of a team of a bunch of dangerous dudes. But then Xin Zhao would come in after and use his ultimate and knock everyone else back, and then Yasuo could just like dance around the outside. It was just so cool.
I like it. I like the wombo combo. Sometimes it's extended wombo combo, and it takes a few steps, but however they can do it, however they can make it work, if the victory happens, you get the W, it doesn't matter. Annie being picked up with Lucian, the Taster's choice as well for XDG, so they're going to have quite a strong bottom lane. I believe we saw Xmidion Jinx first game.
This is an extremely potent bottom lane.
Yeah.
It was Jinx in the first game. Now he's done Lucian. The two newest AD carries to join the league, and both of them very strong in the competitive environment. So let's see how they match up right there, because I love how fast Cloud9 picks. As soon as it comes back to them,
they know what they want.
Pow.
And that's the lane they were looking at last time as well. They were able to lock that in with Caitlyn, keep it a little bit safe. Elimination gets what he wants on Thresh. See Bloodwater, you can see Bloodwater being the one to chat it out with the team here. What are they going to be doing? They have already seen what you have for AD carry and support, but it's about the top in the mid lane here.
Well, here's what's cute about what Cloud9's done. Normally, ManCloud loves to counterpick his lane, and Benny did a very good job of counterpicking his lane last game too. But since Yasuo can go in either spot, they can't necessarily get 100% read on the lane.
If they pick Kog'Maw, that would actually be pretty crazy, because the first time that Vulcan beat Cloud9 last year was because of the top tri-brush Kog'Maw attack that they went in with super early.
Yeah.
They were able to get the kills onto Sneaky when they went in. Sneaky was playing Ezreal that game, but none of that.
They wouldn't, would they?
Showing a little EU love on the Darien Hupper.
They're going to do it.
I wouldn't doubt it.
It's in.
Warwick is ridiculous at 45 minutes. You just have to walk away from him.
Yeah, and they feel like he has enough power to sustain farm against a Shyvana. Depends what Cloud9 throws against him. Lanewick making his triumphant return, going across the Atlantic from Darien into what is probably Benny.
Like I said, Jat, it's not super new, but these champions that are just cropping up, I love it. This season has shown more than any other. People are really trying to take chances and making it work. I guess it's taking chances in our eyes, but these are well-honed champions that they have.
This is going to be real cool. The synergy also in Cloud9 here, Vi plus Yasuo, I think is probably the #1 ganking combo from the jungle. As soon as Vi uses the ultimate, it is a dead ManCloud, almost no matter what he does. I wonder how XDG is going to counter that. You can see ManCloud's kind of puzzling over
I like the trade-off.
Right
I like, as I'm thinking about XDG, you know, Benny gets in there. Yeah, he can get popped up by Yasuo. He can get moved around. But that gives ManCloud time to get in if Benny's aggression wasn't safe, pop whoever they have as a single target back, and, you know, disengage the rest of the team. So they got their own little picks, but it all has to fall together. It's so much easier to say than do.
I know. And, man, the start of this LCS has been loaded with such games.
Yeah.
Number 1 and 2 regular season teams from last split are coming right against each other. This is almost the bigger test to see if Zuna is really fit for the jungle, because he's going up against Meteos, #1 jungler.
You stole what I was going to say next, because that's what I'm super excited about. We'll talk about it more as the teams load into the game. Let's check out who you think will be taking this next matchup. According to LOLesports.com, 88% of you think Cloud9 is going to be taking another win here in the start of the split.
Got to keep in mind, nobody believed in XDG last split. They got voted against almost every time.
What was this, like 70-30 every time they had a game, or like 30% to them, 30%
and then as soon as we ran the feature about them not getting voted for, they started getting voted for and they started losing. So this means anything could happen.
So yeah, let's talk about Zuna and Meteos. Zuna making, what is it, 6-0-15 presence for his first showing in the jungle. Meteos doing pretty well and fared well in his games, but he didn't have that big of an impact.
No.
Again, the composition wasn't calling for Meteos to have an impact. Zuna just did it.
Yep.
So here we go, on to the Rift. Fourth game of the day, it's going to be XDG versus Cloud9. You're looking at 1s and 2s here, ladies and gentlemen. And we'll see what it really comes to be after this matchup.
Yeah, we can see, let me guess, they're going to all 5 go out.
And stand in line.
Defensively. Why do they do that? There could be so much aggression.
Whose line could be straighter?
I'm talking about the composition a bit more, though. Might as well. Because mid lane Yasuo against Gragas, he should be able to juke around fairly well for the barrels. He was talking about how with Teemo he's okay as long as he can dodge the barrels. But he wasn't doing too well with it.
No.
Let's hope he does a little better this time. Again, Cloud9 has stationed Sneaky in the mid lane like they're going to do 2 side laners, which they could, theoretically, they could put Yasuo against Warwick and have a grand old time if they wanted to, and then just let Shyvana throw himself into a 1v2. But this is, I can't take anything from this because Cloud9 had this exact same start in game 1.
That's exactly what they want. With having Vi or anybody on either side of your AD carry, why not just show the AD carry in middle? It's different. It's not what you're going to do or could be what you're going to do. So it's a tiny mind game.
Yeah, especially if teams aren't going to be invading you, because that's normally the threat of
you're safe.
someone in the mid lane. Is say, oh, now we know there's no more than 4 of them in any other spot.
Exactly. Good point.
But they're letting it happen.
So you can see the pings coming out. They just warded that. Why'd they ping it? Weird. What's going through their head, Jet?
That there's a ward there.
All right.
Ward team.
Solid.
Yep.
Even matchups once again, so the laning phase won't see that spectator. They're fine.
All right.
Oh.
It's been a long time since I've seen that, Riv.
Yeah.
I do not have the best memories of that moment.
You survived it, though.
I did. That was long ago. We've come a long way since then. Hopefully this gets fixed up real quick. We'll give a word back as soon as we know what's up.
Absolutely. It's a good thing nothing really took place in the game, because then
No,
you can get a simple reset
game of
if
record
necessary.
yet necessarily. No one's taking damage.
XDG versus Cloud9 coming in for our 4th game of the day. If you're just joining us, it has been an amazing spring split so far. We've seen Teemos coming out to play. We've seen Dragons back and forth. Dominate got a Dragon Steel Curse in their game
Baron
versus
Steel.
Coast. Baron.
Yep.
Nobody cares about Dragons.
We saw Dragon
Sneaky
Steel
stole that
too.
with Peacemaker.
We saw Dragon Steel too.
Yeah, that was Sneaky's.
That was an easy one.
I'm glad Freak looked at that. That was cool to hear that it cut the frames of pretty much casting. Because you said if you know the casting time of Consume, since Smite is instant, and he actually got it in the time of casting Consume.
Really unlucky. But he could have timed it perfectly, and there would have been no chance. To be fair, I've had a Baron stolen away from me by, it was actually the Odd Ones Gangplank ultimate once. Nice. And everyone on my team was like, how could you not smite it? It's so easy. I was like, because
it's like slight DPS tapped on.
Well, it's because a lot of us had wriggles at the time.
Sure. Whatever makes you sleep at night.
A lot of us had wriggles. And as I was smiting it, or about to smite, I was waiting for the health threshold to go down because no one was around us.
Right. And everybody's going to spike with abilities.
A wriggles procced, and then a cannonball hit it, like in the same frame. And I hit the smite, and I thought we had it. I was 100% sure
it's
that
on
we
us.
had the Baron. I was like, we have Baron. And we started walking around, and everyone's like, you suck, Jet. Damn it. I guess I do, because I missed it.
Pro player aware.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, well.
Not anymore.
Next time, if there is.
There's not going to be a next time for that, Riv.
There's always a chance. Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe Kobe will come out and play for CLG later.
I actually stopped every time a Gangplank would ult, because Gangplank was popular back then. Anytime a Gangplank would ult Baron, we would just stop DPSing it because they're like, oh, it's gonna steal it. Better not let that steal.
Just walk away from it. Now people just don't do Baron. It's a bad idea. It's kind of what makes you lose the game. 50-50 isn't really what you want to do, and I think every time we go for that in a game, that's what I type. I'm like, it's a 50-50, and people are like, oh, that's a statistic I know, and it's not good. We're looking to see XDG and Cloud9 getting live quite soon here. We get to the start of the game. Pretty interesting compositions. We do get a Warwick top coming out of these guys. So that'll be
that's
nice.
going to be so interesting. The first Warwick top we've seen from anyone but Darien. And the way Darien used to work, or does work with his top lane Warwick, just hoping the game. I keep getting baited because I have the game and the screen over there, and I keep thinking it's going to start again. Top lane Warwick is all about just being an immovable object. It fits right in with the tanky top laners kind of not doing much, but it's effective because his Q is a percentage life steal.
Right.
And no matter what happens, he will continue to scale in tankiness, and then as the enemy scales in health, he will also get more damage. So it's a counter almost in the same way that Trundle is. It is punishing the enemy for doing the super tank top lane thing.
Playing against that old Elise, and don't build health. Just build resistances and try to keep yourself alive for the end of the game. So with this, does Cloud9 kind of go off the fact, well, I guess they can't because they have regular picks, but they do go off the fact that they have something different that they brought to the game.
Yeah, well, they have the Yasuo as well. And this is now I believe the 5th Yasuo we've seen in the LCS. There were 3 over in Europe. The second one we've seen in just 4 games over in North America here. High was criticized pretty heavily for not having a strong champion pool, especially at Worlds last year. Then he brought out some new picks at Battle of the Atlantic, had a great Kha'Zix game. And already, Teemo plus Yasuo, 2 champions that obviously he never played in the last split. He's definitely done a lot of work in the offseason to reboot himself. And Cloud9's not happy just being the best team in North America, or is not content with the 25-3.
And knowing, coming out of the scrims, right, they know more than us and their potential, how they've been doing. Coming in with that, like I said before, they're not really showing too much this week of what they can do. And why wouldn't the first week be the best if you know you are one of the top teams to try things out when you can get the wins later if you need them?
Exactly. And I really do think that Teemo pick was good.
Yeah.
It was a serious
absolutely
thing. They mentioned the Teemo player. Kobe will have to get the name for me again at the end. That plays nothing but Teemo. Was it McDollar? You're just messing
Shouldn't
with me,
have tried.
Yeah, their Teemo name, McDoobladoo. But the fact that...
Great shout out.
Well, here's the thing. With Season 4 and the 2014 championship season here, knowing that Oracle's removed, the few champions like Evelyn I thought was going to be a bigger factor. Hasn't necessarily been in all of the games. And now Teemo, it is much more difficult to deal with the Shrooms once they get ahead because you can't just build an Oracles and go around sweeping them out.
Yeah.
You have to predict what bushes they're going to be in and sweep them again and again. So Teemo does have enhanced map control now.
Let's talk about what Zuna got.
Hate to legitimize Teemo.
Yeah, sometimes it has to happen. Maybe we'll learn to love him. Now, there's Zuna. That's what I was actually just going to talk about. So
what do you got to say?
Great switch. He's on Shiv now. He was on Olaf. Both can still kind of play that same bit of aggression.
He's on Elise.
He's on. Oh yeah, you're right. Left side. I was thinking red side.
Yeah.
He's on Elise. A little bit of the aggression is still there, but like you said, are the mechanics, right? Olaf is kind of, you don't have to have an order, but with Elise it helps.
Yeah, well, he wasn't missing many axes on Olaf, which I think is going to bode well for what he does on Elise here. Many of those cocoons, which we saw, I Will Dominate missing a fair number of in that last game. That's the test of a lot of these Elises is when their cocoons are stunning, because it's not so much that you can't land a skill shot, it's that you know when to use it. Because sometimes you want to be going in point blank and then cocooning on the retreat, or you want to be running up and cocooning so you can go in combo. It's a tricky choice that you have a lot of getting used to too, and hopefully he's played a lot of Elise in the jungle early, because I'd say of like total skill cap in the jungle champions go, Elise is right at the top.
All right, so as we wait for everything to get fixed up, we are going to throw it over to Freak, Kobe, and Voyboy standing by on the desk. Give us a little bit of talk to you about what's going on.
Hey, thank you very much, Riv. We are back here to talk about all kinds of wonderful things. So, Voyboy, first of all, welcome to the desk. How you doing? Good. So you guys, I want to talk to you actually about your game, since we've really just barely come off of that one. That was close for a while. Like, how do you play the close games where you know you're clawing back and forth? Like, what do you do to get yourself into those games?
Yeah, so basically the reason the game was so stagnant and so close was because we had a team comp that basically had no actual form of hard engage. Like, it could have been like Elise repel in or me dash in and like Lulu wall, and then we like start a fight. But we reversed at PokeCon with like Varus and Nidalee and a lot of really strong disengage with like Annie and Trundle. So we get into siege scenarios where they'd be poking us down, and like I try to like mitigate a little bit, like throw a wind wall here and there, but we never really could get an opportunity where we could go onto them. And so one obvious advantage that we had was the fact that we had TP and they didn't. They took Ignite on Trundle to be able to cut down on Mundo's healing and just like have a chance at killing him. And so what we basically ended up doing was looking for like opportunities where they walk a little too close. We can either like try to land a Q for the knockup and then look to ult in, or we can just have Mundo like TP in and try to flank them. So the game was just like stagnant for so long because we really didn't have many tools to make a move on them. And then they went for like a Baron attempt. We had Mundo splitting bot. Dom went in, got the steal, and we just like aced them. And then we just ran down mid and pushed for the win. So it was just like this. The game just exploded and we took it home.
That's definitely something I want to ask you more about, because the steal was so miraculous and you had teleport ready. I kept on waiting for the teleport to come in because Baron was going down really fast. What were the voice comms like during that exchange? Because that's one of the most tense moments of any game.
Yeah, so basically what happened was we were assessing the situation. We were watching the Baron's health. When we like first got vision of it, it was at 9k or something, so still you have a little bit of time left. I think we were just like, all right, just wait. We were just waiting for it to get lower and lower because we were just waiting for the opportunity to like go for the steal while simultaneously starting a fight. And then when it got to like 4k, I think I made the call for cross TP in. He just came in, just ran inside. They tried to melt it. Dom got the steal off. That was amazing. And then we just like ended up AoEing them and killing them down after we chased them. And then we just ran down mid. Nidalee actually died pretty late, so we had like 50 seconds left, and we just made the call to end the game. And we got another pick on the Varus, I believe, and they really had no way of stopping us.
All right, so I know you gave us the audio play-by-play, but we actually have a replay of that fight. I figured, why not relive the winning moments here if we can get the replay up on your screen. Voyboy, just take us through this like really awesome moment.
All right,
once again.
So right here, we're just watching the health. We don't really have to do anything. Zion walks a little too close, starts taking some poke. We don't hit the cocoon, but if we did, we probably would have tried to go for an all-in. And as soon as the Varus throws the ult out, we just go all in. Dom gets a steal off. We get the Lulu ult off, and we just start killing them. And Nilly has to run out of the fight, otherwise we would have killed her. We're just chasing them down. Quas flashes over. We're like, all right, I'll finish off Zion. Everyone else go for Wiz and Shifter. And we knew Wiz had no flash and no mana, so he was just a sitting duck, and we just had to chase him down and kill him. And right here, I think we get the kill on him. We probably wouldn't have been able to end the game if Shifter didn't die, and he actually died much later than this. We were like pushing down mid, and Dom landed a really nice cocoon in between the creep wave. We just took him out, and we just made the call to end.
Okay, so I have a two-part question for you to follow up on all of this. The first of all, who makes all the calls or most of the calls in game and in champ select?
So basically, the way we do it is early game lane rotations. Most of the ganks and stuff, Dom is pretty much the voice behind that. He's a jungler. He knows how to pressure, and we look to take his opinion and just basically look for what lanes to pressure and stuff like that. And then sort of mid game, we have Zekin doing some like dragon calls, like clearing out wards and stuff like that. We can take control of the map, but honestly, everyone kind of contributes. And then late game, I'm kind of the designated late game shot caller. I have the most experience, and usually in like those really tense situations, I have a pretty good voice of reason. So I try to make the calls for like when we should push, when we should end, like go for Baron, stuff like that. And so far, it's been working out pretty well.
Okay, so then I have a question for you on this, because you mentioned earlier on that you said, we didn't have a really good comp for beating them because they're like poking, they've disengaged. We're like, all we can do is like kind of hope for this teleport flank. When you come away from that game, do you say, okay, we need to like try to rethink champ select and be ready for this better, or are you actually like happy with how the game played out?
I think we were pretty happy with the way the game played out. Like we had a team comp that was very suited at killing them in team fights. It might be a little boring from a spectator standpoint, and for us even, because it's not obvious how we're going to make a play and how we're going to win the game. Like, let's say when you have like Leona or Annie or someone with hard initiation, you'd be like, all right, just go for the stun. Like, everyone follow up, get your CC up. But here it's like, all right, we have to like try to hedge our bets. We have to like get lanes pushing, start applying pressure on the map. And like an example of this, when we were all at Dragon, after we had sort of went even on a team fight, we had pushed top into their turret. And because Zion didn't have TP, he had to come mid to try to stay around for the Dragon attempt. And they ended up losing like multiple waves top. So that was just an example of how without actually like forcing a fight, we were able to gain slight advantages, and we just built those, and eventually they made one mistake at the Baron, and we were able to turn that into a win.
Nice. All right, so tomorrow your game is going to be against XDG, and obviously it's kind of hard to do research on them because they had a role swap. Zuna's been practicing jungle for maybe 2 weeks, but you saw their game today. What are you thinking going into your next game?
We played them a bit in scrims and stuff. I think when we played them, they were still just like getting into their role swap and stuff, so they didn't look that strong. But versus EG, they had a really strong performance. Zuna actually like played really well in my opinion on Olaf, and I think it'll be a really good game. We are pretty confident right now. I think that it's probably going to take them a while to get like fully acclimated and adjusted to the changes and stuff like that. But I definitely think that they can do it. And I mean, from their win today, they're probably going to be a top team, and I think we're going to be up there to able to compete with them.
Nice. It's awesome to hear you guys confident looking into this one. So, moving in, you got the rest of the week ahead of you guys as well. You looking for that 4-0 week?
Yes, definitely. That's going to be the plan. If we go 4-0, I'll be really happy. We have some tough matches, but I think that we have the potential to win all the games.
All right, so the game that we're about to watch, they did have a Warwick pick, and you're definitely a favorite of the unconventional sort of top laners back when you played top lane. I really like when Darren was playing Warwick, but everyone's like, oh, Darren has this kind of reputation where he's really cool, but he's a little bit insane too. So now it's real. Like other people are using Warwick top. So what do you think about it?
I think my personal opinion is that Warwick is notoriously weak early game. You get into like a level 4, level 5 scrap, and like they have their top laner. It doesn't matter who it is, and you have your Warwick. For the most part, the Warwick's not going to be really doing much. But the thing that he does have is a very strong late game. When Warwick has items, he has a very low cooldown on his ultimate. He has ridiculous tank shredding with his Q, and he gives a team attack speed buff on his W, which is like a lot of like, I guess like unrespected power, because if you get in a late game like push scenario or like a team fight or something and you have champions that scale well with attack speed, like Warwick's W is amazing for that. But the problem with Warwick is that it's very hard to get him out of the early game and to a point where he can be effective in team fights and in those like pushing scenarios. Basically, my opinion on Warwick is that if you have enough confidence in your team and you think that they can get you through the early game and the mid game while you're admitting that you're going to be a vulnerability and a weakness, then it's a pretty strong pick. If your team is not that confident, if like mid or bot like ends up having a losing lane or something like that, and you're just like a level 7 Warwick, you're probably not going to be doing that much compared to the other options available. But if you can get past that point, get enough farm, and outsplit push the enemy champion, then you can be a really big contributing factor, which is what we basically see when Darian runs it, and he's drawing bans now, so it's pretty good.
So would you let Quas you run Warwick if you guys had wave clear on other picks in your composition?
Yeah, sure, why not?
All right, so we just talked about Warwick. I got one more question for you. You, of course, played Yasuo. We're seeing him now come in. If you could sort of give us sort of what you think like the strengths and weaknesses of Yasuo as a champion, bringing him into the competitive scene, tell me what you think about this guy.
I think Yasuo is really strong. He definitely fits the type of champion that I love playing. Those assassins, those melee assassins. Zed and Ahri and stuff got nerfed a few months ago, and people were like, "Oh, the assassin meta is dead." But to be honest, like, the meta is whatever you make of it. So there's a lot of variety still available, and Yasuo definitely fits under that spectrum. I think he's really strong. I think he shines the most when you have a teammate that can provide a knock-up, so you don't always have to rely on his Q. And for example, in our game, I was playing Yasuo, and we only had a Lulu, and that's actually not a combination we practice much. So there was a little bit, you can see, like, we didn't actually get many like good Yasuo ults off, but it's still really strong when you have any champion that can just instantly pop enemy champion up, and then you just ult them. And you just blow them up because it's like a free pick. I think he's really strong. I think he has a lot of potential. I would not be surprised to see him picked up a lot more.
All right, Voiboy, thank you very much for your time and for all your answers and everything else. And good luck to your team the rest of the week and the rest of the season. You're welcome. Of course, guys, we got the games coming back. It looks like we're ready to get back into XDG versus Cloud9. So, cheers there. Let's send it over back to the desk.
Thank you very much, Freak. We are back up and running. Unfortunately, we do have to restart the game. That means both teams will be returning to Champion Select, but we're going to get the same things re-rolled into that. We just want to make sure it's all even Steven.
As far as the rules go, like the game of record that we like to call it, what has actually happened. It's the first time someone takes damage or is seen by the enemy team.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that the teams aren't allowed to go with the same team compositions if they want to. And it does seem like they're going to be going with the same champions in this next big match.
Absolutely. And before we were talking, as we were getting into game, it's something we were looking at is Meteos and Zuna. Zuna making his triumphant, as Freak said it, appearance in the jungle. 6-0 and 15. And a lot of people were kind of on his back about it when they started. We're on the back of XDG altogether.
Yeah, it's a lot of criticism that actually came down to them right when they made the role swap. But a lot of people were just not fans of Zuna's AD carry. They did not have knowledge of his jungle. They just didn't think that he'd be able to pull off another role.
That Teemo ban, if you're just joining us, is a Teemo ban. I played that in their first game versus Team Solo Mid, and they were able to get a victory out of it.
Yeah,
it
they're
was
doing the same ones.
Quite scary. Yeah, it's absolutely going to be the same ones. Ball's looking to be Shyvana, exactly. So as they go back through picks and bans, we're going to have to just look at what they want to get out of these compositions, how they want to do it. You know that Bloodwater and Xmithy were quite aggressive in their last laning phase. They were able to get out quite strong. But will they do it again? Are they going to try to take out Sneaky Elimination? Because we know them as the passive lane.
I definitely think that the Lucian Annie should be the more aggressive lane.
Right.
And they're going to be definitely trying to get a fair bit of aggression early on. Even though we're going into the same game with the same picks and bans, doesn't mean we won't see lane swaps. It doesn't mean we won't see invades. I think for XDG as a whole, I'd like the Warwick pick only because it's strong against Shyvana and it can kind of get them to that point. But I do worry a little bit about ManCloud's ability to just survive that laning phase against Vi and Yasuo.
ManCloud does like to be aggressive, get the lane pressure on. Even if he doesn't roam, he stops his lane from roaming. So definitely a good thing, not a good thing, but to bring up and be a little bit worried about for him. He wards a tad late, as we see. He was pushing back Kassadin quite hard in that first game, pushing back. So we'll see if they can pull it out.
You could see Benny there using his hand warmers like an arm warmer, just going all the way up and down there.
Well, the blood flows into your hand, so if you speed it up beforehand, right?
Does that work?
Nope, probably not.
Okay.
It sounded good at the time. That's why
I want to try it.
Play-by-players can say anything.
Oh, you don't need to put hand warmers on your hand. Just put them on your shoulder. It'll work just great.
Hot Ice. No, that's a good movie, though.
Hot Ice? I haven't seen it.
Rookie of the Year. Wow.
I've seen Rookie of the Year. I've not seen Hot Ice.
That's the same movie. It's just a line in the movie.
All right.
All right. We're on the same page. This is how you get so good to be co-casters.
Words.
Yep. Absolutely. You trade them back and forth at high speeds.
I like that. Rookie of the Year was a good movie, though. That was the one where the kid had like the 106-mile-an-hour fastball.
Yep, you need Hot Ice.
Because he broke his arm?
Yep.
Okay.
Gotcha. We're on the same page. It always happens. It takes a little bit, but then it's like, boom, same path, end of the race. We found the finish line.
So I would consider Cloud9 the rookies of last year.
Yeah, absolutely. Throwing
Meteos would've been Rookie
fastballs
of the
the
Year.
entire time. That was actually pretty crazy because, like I said before, when you win so much, you kind of go into a game like, are we going to just win again? Because nobody's really challenging us, but more fastballs.
Well, if anyone challenged Cloud9 last year, it was XDG.
Yes,
And
it
now we're
was.
finally back here.
XDG very much so in the early game. Remember, 88% of you came into this game thinking Cloud9 would take it, and it's still 88% on that website. So we're going to have to see if the fans here are correct. But the fans also sitting behind XDG after that first game. Zuna finding a little love in the jungle. So both teams, you could say, have home court advantage right now.
Both teams with home court advantage.
Yeah.
That's craziness. All right, so same start as last time. Pretty much exactly the same. We see Sneaky standing in mid lane.
Dancing.
With ManCloud.
Oh, he's balking the shot.
You got to be careful with this guy. He broke Manor last time.
He did.
He's going to fire
Ironically
over
with a Peacemaker.
Damn it, Riv. That was good.
Double Doran start. Actually, Yasuo going for the Doran's Blade in mid instead of the shield. So that'll be a first. Not gigantic, but a new. Thank you, Caitlin.
All right, so Doran's Blade start actually on Yasuo.
Yeah.
Very aggressive opening. We saw Boy's last successful Yasuo game. He started with the Doran shield. Instead, I really wonder whether Hai's going to want to lane against Gragas or whether he's going to want to put himself in a 1v1 against Warwick. He would have to go a long way in order to get to that Warwick 1v1. If I had to make a prediction here, I'd say it's going to be standard lanes all around, but we just haven't moved into those spots yet.
We have only had standard lanes all around. We're 4 games in here, and nobody's really wanted to mix things up
First
yet.
game, Cloud9 did the double turret kill.
Oh, they did go super fast. You're right. That went so quick. I forgot about it.
It was very fast.
Sneaky and ever. Ooh. So now that the wards are down, they start to invade. This boggles me. But
This
see
is
what
good.
they got out of it.
This is a smart invade right now because they know Warwick can do almost nothing to help Zuna early on in the game. And if they push him off here, it will set Zuna back a fair bit.
Wondering when this was actually going to happen. Now, do they trade down to the bottom lane? You see Warwick, he's going to actually try to see if he has time to take his wolves before he does this. Benny. No, that's not his wolves. Elise, rather. Zuna.
He's taking Elise's wolves.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, Zuna tried to stick around and
He's gonna
harass
have
a
to
little
get there.
bit. He's going to run to his red. I wonder, actually, if Balls is going to take the blue buff now for himself because he doesn't want to get to lane. No, he's going to run straight down to that turret to get some minion experience.
So it doesn't seem like Balls really is one of the Void Boy, or we saw earlier happening, that they just walk away from level 2. Actually, he was doing
Yeah,
it,
well,
but now
Balls-
he's approaching a lane.
Balls actually took the Wraiths while the counter jungling was happening and then ran all the way back across the map. And the only reason Balls showed himself in the lane that early was because the wave was already pushed to his turret. So there was experience for him to get. As you can see, Benny is still jungling since the Caitlyn and Thresh haven't actually pushed it to the turret yet, therefore couldn't get experience.
A little gentleman's agreement on the blue takes of either side. Let's see that Zuna's able to take that one back into his favor. Zuna, we said, playing Olaf in his last game, 6-0 in 15. Going to be bringing out the Elise. We pointed out a little bit of the mechanical, that it has heightened the mechanical prowess of Elise. Takes a little bit more.
The requirement of mechanical skill
there we
is
go.
a lot higher.
I wonder if
It's a
we go
weird
down to
thing
this
to counter
bottom
jungle
lane.
that early, but it's because he'd just taken the blue.
Yeah.
And they're pushing him off the turret anyway, so they're going to be taking turrets. And again, Cloud9
Deja
opts
vu.
into this turret trade.
It kind of forces the other team to have to opt into it as well. You go this fast. TSM fell behind here last game. They weren't even halfway done with this turret by the time that Cloud9 took theirs, and it looks like they will be able to fare a little bit better here, or XDG that is.
That move by Balls right there, waiting in the tri-bush for experience.
Twice in a row now.
It's going to give him an edge. It gave him an edge against TSM. It's a smart thing, and they didn't even get that turret. This is going to... Again, Cloud9 is looking like they're coming out on top of this.
Let's see if they can hold it. That was Zuna backing, or not Zuna backing, I'm sorry. That was Bloodwater backing, saying, you guys got this. And he's not even focusing down to that bottom lane. They say, I'll meet you in mid. We're starting the rotation now and putting it in step.
Well, here's what XDG is doing that TSM didn't, is they are making sure they have defense for their other lane.
Yeah.
And they're still having enough to finish off the turret and keep the game close.
Yeah, that was a little miscommunicated in the previous game. Our first game of the day, actually, Cloud9 TSM. XDG, like we said, faring a bit better here, but Hai is still trying to keep this lane pressured or pushed as much as possible. So ManCloud can't get out, can't roam in it. not ManCloud. Oh, I was going to say it's ManCloud playing a little passive, but ManCloud now being ManCloud, it goes in for a flash body slam, but neither team really wanted any of it.
That was really strange decision-making right there. And now it's getting maybe turned around. Both flashes down from mid and jungler. High's early laning phase was very strong against Gragas.
Yeah.
He's definitely been outplaying ManCloud there. And it was almost a desperation flash body slam because he thought Zuna was going to be in range to gank, but it wasn't even close.
They caught Meteos. As soon as he peeked his head around that corner, they didn't want any more of the fight. So really good positioning by him. Always right place, right time. Looks like ManCloud's kind of forced to stay in lane now, a little bit behind. And this is really where High's going to want him. Just keeps ticking down on him, and he controls that lane, rather.
And this is something that High has over ManCloud. He can stop ManCloud from farming the wave when he wants to, because the wind wall actually destroys the Gragas barrel while it's rolling on the ground. So if ManCloud tries to set something out and farm the back wave, High can stop him from doing that. He's almost double his farm now.
That's a really big factor, because Gragas is only thrown out when he's getting 2 or 3, when you're getting mass coins.
Yep.
So that is going to absolutely hurt. Great point for ManCloud. He goes for 2 rings. He knows he needs a bit of that HP because the burst from Yasuo is going to be quite strong. We saw what Voidboy was doing to the AD carries earlier. Next, Smithy and Bloodwater looking to soak up some of the resources as they've found the lane pushed a little bit, but they don't want to get too close to Sneaky and Elimination in their new aggressive type style of play here.
Yeah, Sneaky done a very good job laning on Caitlyn throughout the day. This is his second game on Caitlyn. He was victorious on TSM, and that's... There's an argument to be made that he was just getting rid of that, but it's a bad one.
Maybe he was just hungry. Everybody loves cupcakes.
He does have the Vamp Scepter already, so getting getting traps out of the way when you can is often worth it. Otherwise, it'll stifle ganks and often kill you when you're trying to run away. See, he's already life stole it all up, so he did, in fact, clear that trap just to get rid of it.
So that's the thing with the Vamp Scepter lane, though, and you have no sustain coming from a healer. Ooh, very nice flash on the Vault Breaker there. Benny's going to go ahead and waltz himself around. He will not get any blood sent out of this one. No, it's going to be a 3v1. Great transition up from High, but Zuna meets him first. Will it be enough? Zuna's like, I ain't got nothing for you after the cocoon. Benny finds himself in the long walk, going down for first blood.
And that was all because High had so much presence in that mid lane to stop ManCloud from roaming up, but he himself is in trouble if ManCloud... No, actually not, because he got the wind wall.
The wind wall will change the prediction immediately. Lemonation also trying to throw out a quick aggression there to get the Fog of War into their favor, and everybody coming out of the woodwork. See them pushing down. They decide to leave the bottom turret, though, knowing there was a lot of aggression towards the top side. Why would they leave Smithy in the bottom lane if they're not going to get much off this?
Well, I think it's just because they want the support to be roaming around a little bit, and he's not needed down there as 2 people as long as Sneaky and Elimination are roaming around. You don't need to have Bloodwater there to watch Xmithy farm.
Right. He's soaking up more experience. That would put him ahead in a few levels, and he's actually got 2 levels on his support. So they'll have to be careful if they actually try to go in for a fight. Tibbers will not be there, and they will have to coordinate. Same thing on the other side, though. Sneaky's a level ahead Elimination, as it should be, but it's not 2 levels, and they're definitely going to be able to coordinate these fights. Pushing up here from McSmithy and Bloodwater without too many wards behind them, and I think they heard me. They go to ward.
They're going to get some safety back in that lane, but honestly, the laning phases aside from the middle have been very even and close. I'd say Benny actually had the edge on balls before he got ganked. It's really just been about High's Yasuo shutting down ManCloud's Gragas.
Something to keep an eye on for sure. We know Gragas is being really one of the top tiers. We've seen him in the jungle recently as well. Seen him as support recently as well. So
you've seen him everywhere.
Been used all around the map.
I wanted Gragas support to work yesterday. It just didn't. It was actually Kuja who tried to play support Gragas.
Yeah.
Some people may know him from long ago in the European scene, but
all the way back to Season 1 finals.
He's been around.
Against All Authority versus Fnatic. Those were some fun games. Definitely a different style of play 3 years later.
You could say that. You could say it's slightly different. But even so, we have Yasuo against ManCloud. He's got to get out of the way of that teleport.
Oh! That's all that needs to be said.
ManCloud's going to get tired of this really quickly. High's wind wall is completely shutting down ManCloud at the moment. That would have probably been a kill if he wouldn't have been able to react and put that wind wall down. That's the big thing about playing in these low ping environments, is his reaction time is basically just true to what is coming out of his screen.
And that wind wall effectively stops a teleport. That's on full cooldown for Benny, who is going to ult in on that fight and get the suppression. So that it stopped a little more besides that cask.
And XDG likes to get their advantages in the early game. If they don't pull off early game advantages, they oftentimes aren't able to close out games. And Cloud9 is the ones coming out with the edge here. They did a slightly better job with the lane swapping, and they've just done a better job rotating and taking advantage of High's great Yasuo play.
Absolutely, the cookie is crumbling in their favor right now. We've seen the gold lead coming into the start of every game here in the North American split be at least, or I should say just, around 1,000 gold. It doesn't really spread too much until really later in the game, which we see teams getting that first dragon, getting those first turrets.
Oh, here comes a gank.
Ooh, Zuna, very, very low in the mid lane, but he repels on most of the damage there, gets himself out. Very well played. And I believe he canceled out the Vault Breaker, Assault and Battery rather, and he did.
Yeah, they were trying to chain that one after the other, but he was able to repel right in between the combo. Actually a bit of a strange gank there. I feel like if Meteos would have ulted at the start, they would have gotten the kill. But then, since High did land his Tornado, he ulted right away, and they just messed up their chaining because he actually landed a spell he wanted to.
See where they go from this. A little aggression in mid could give them enough to start going for the turret. A sweet little wall there stops Smithy from putting some passive damage down onto it. It looks like Cloud9 has everything they need to siege protect.
Yeah, there was no wind wall to block that Grog Assault, but the turret stopped him from going too far away. I think the dragon fight's going to be a big factor in this one.
Gragas says yes. So does Annie. You're going to have to see Meteos if he can really change the minds of everybody. There are 3 dive buddies on this team. High wants to go in, but he's not going to be nearly as tanky as Meteos and Balls, so there has to be extreme coordination when they get into the fight.
Yeah. So the nice thing is he's gotten a Static Shiv, and for Yasuo, surprisingly, Static Shiv is a great offensive and defensive item because he gets the extra damage from moving around so much. But since the move speed actually comes out from Static Shiv on him, it's an off argument, but it makes his flow recharge faster for the passive shield that he can get to proc there. It does look like Cloud9 is all grouping up towards this dragon now, hoping to catch Zuna and ManCloud in a blue buff rotation. It's all about how fast they can kill it.
It seems like Cloud9 is just kind of going for this dragon. Doesn't seem like anything was really set into place. They found the window and took it, and sometimes that's the way you have to play. They start to spread that gold lead to 2,000 now. First dragon down at 12 minutes, so we'll see that around 18. We'll see if both teams are actually moving for it beforehand.
And check out Meteos. He hasn't even finished a Spirit Stone yet. He's still sitting on Hunter's Machete, and he's just going around with the Boots of Mobility, but it hasn't hurt him in health too much. Knowing that he can take all the blue buffs, he's able to spam his spells fairly frequently in the jungle and actually keep his shield up from using spells. It's making it so he doesn't need the sustain from a Spirit Stone.
Definitely seeing less Meteos than usually in the lanes this game. We saw Snoopy tried to build mobility boots on Lee Sin in their first game for EG, and he was only really the support there, but here we go, getting the lockdowns in. They're going to be able to take him down. They try to get a bit of suppression down onto Balls, but they get out alive.
And this is what all the Vi's do nowadays. They max their Vault Breaker, and as long as that lands for Meteos, it is a huge amount of damage, and it gets the kill for them. Then they just chained their ultimates together, and there was not much Benny could have done to escape that one.
Not much he could have done or can do right now about his turret going down. The rest of the team is in the top lane, so we have rotation now. Meteos is going to be heading over, but Balls is free to pressure this top turret, and Warwick really isn't that close. Getting the repel out of Zuna. That was cute.
Just about.
Cool wall.
Yeah. It's windy. Second turret goes down in this lane, though, so there's a lot of split pushing going on. High, might want to be a little careful about ManCloud here.
He doesn't have any mana. He gets popped back to his team.
It was a good flash.
That was pretty lucky.
He flashed over that barrel so that it knocked him in the other direction. Otherwise, I think ManCloud would have finished him off.
Looks like XDG is still trying to keep that pressure around the map. Zuna and Bloodwater, Zuna, going to do it a lot. Smithy and Bloodwater have not moved from this bottom lane for quite some time, and we even saw that Sneaky and Lemonation were mid lane even before, and still the bottom turret is up for these guys. They've been putting their focus in a lot of other places when they had that lane in their favor.
Yeah, the farm in that bottom lane has been rather close. I would say that the lane advantage of Smithy and Bloodwater should have mainly come through, but because we did so much 2v1ing and so much swapping, it was hard to really fight in a 2v2 situation, and it just means the farm is close.
XDG definitely handled the early turret rush better than Team Solomid did in the first game. It wasn't Cloud9 instantly going and pressuring the turrets. They have found the second one in the top lane, but even in the first game when they dropped it quick, it didn't really play much of a role. It was all about the mid, and then the Dragons, and then the Baron. So if XDG can kind of get by the fact that they don't have a top turret, they'll be in good condition.
Yeah, I can see XDG falling behind a bit in this game, though.
Yeah.
Because a lot of their farm in the jungle is just low. They haven't been able to make any plays of their own. They're really just reacting to what Cloud9 is doing with them.
And that's what you almost can't do. When you're playing adaptive, you're already one step behind if you're not the one initially doing the adapting to what's going on. So XDG is thinking of what to do. Who's the initiation, though? They have the Tibbers. The Flash Tibbers could absolutely be there, but when you use that, you're only going to have a Dragon, a chick with big hands, and Yasuo coming at your face. So it's a lot to worry about.
See if they can get the push down on the bottom lane here, because Annie's flanking around from the side. They don't want to get caught in a Tibbers plus X-Smithy combo. That would be a bit too much.
No, but they are, chat. They are. And there's the culling on the backside. Box goes down. Benny's there to capitalize on the suppression, locking him down. Lemon Nation's going to fall on this one. And no, they don't have the wards to be safe right now in that bottom lane.
The pink ward from Bloodwater pays dividends because they did not know that it was the Annie approaching up from the top. And, of course, the teleport came in on another pink ward, I believe. Yeah,
yep.
Check it out. Going from the other pink ward down on the mini-map. Even with the lantern there, Warwick had them both dead to rights. He hops on Sneaky just for fun, and then Lemon Nation had no way of running away. He didn't even bother trying to use his flash.
It worked really well when they played Ashe and had Hawkshot when they didn't ward. But when they don't have wards and they don't have Ashe, it looks like the bottom lane gets torn up quite a bit there. Very well played by XDG. Baron is up in a minute and a half right now. Or, yeah, Baron. Dragon is up in a minute and a half right now. And with XDG winning that little bottom lane scuffle, they get the Bloodthirster up towards Xmithy and charged up. Zanya's is on to ManCloud, so that makes the objective fight a little bit stronger for them.
Yeah, it's not your typical Gragas build, but that's because you typically don't have to fight against Yasuo.
Right, the armor.
Yeah, the armor from the Zanya's Hourglass should come in pretty handy for him.
Oh.
He's actually come back a lot in that lane since High could block so much with his wind wall.
He is just auto-attacking HP back from burnout.
Exactly.
Mixed damage doesn't matter.
Benny can completely deal with balls at this point.
Very good damage onto the turret so far. It looks like they don't want a full engage, though. It's not what they are ready for. The teleport is down. There's just too much crowd control they're looking at for this next fight. High stays alone. And maybe he can bait this fight out. It looks like Sneaky and Lemonation want to help him with something.
Yeah, High's still working on his items as well. He's got 1,000 gold in his inventory. He has one for the Vamp Scepter and Double Thorns, so he's really worried about keeping his health sustained up high.
Cloud9 still getting out pink wards. The pink wards laid after they actually lost their bottom lane just now, so they're kind of doing a little bit of their own reacting to something that happened when they were the ones on the driver's seat just a second ago. Still 4,000 gold in the lead. And those pink wards are going to set them up. Like we said, Dragons at 18 minutes. That's in 10 seconds. So they have already set the chess pieces in place more than XDG here for this objective.
Yeah, Bloodwater would have to get there very quickly if he wants to take this one down. I wonder how long before Cloud9 fully commits to this one. I think this is the fight Cloud9's been waiting for. And as long as High's in position, he can actually block the barrel steals. He can just throw a wind wall up, and it's safe to do any objective against Gragas if you have a Yasuo on your team. It is a little dangerous, however, just putting themselves in the Dragon Pit and allowing XDG to initiate, but that's what they've chosen to do. Here we go.
Benny's getting close. Eyes on Warwick. He locks down High, actually. Dragon goes over to Meteos. He gets the smite down perfectly on it. High is very low, but somehow still alive in the fight. He dashes out. Benny's on his tail. Can he live with the last hit there? They have put 3 people on 1 person. The other side of the fight, it's XDG losing 3.
Yeah, that just shows you how XDG was very weak coming into that fight, because even though Benny seemed to take all of the distraction onto himself, Cloud9's wrecking crew was still able to finish off the back line of XDG. So a great call and fight by Cloud9. They did have a small lead before that fight. Now it's much bigger.
Fighting with the vision there. I guess they pulled everybody out of the vision, as you can see the start of the fight. But
and I got to see the other half of this fight that we didn't see on camera right from the start. So it was an attempted steal by Zuna, and then he wasn't really involved in the rest of this fight. You can see he runs off towards the top, and Meteos is who's fighting up there with Shyvana. This part we've already seen before, so you can see Sneaky just finish off Benny with those Ignite ticks, and that's the 3 for 1.
So Very nice coming in. 2-0-2 in the top lane for Balls. Meteos sitting on the same score. And this time it looks like Sneaky and Lemonation are going to take a little bit of a backseat. They're putting more of the assists up for the team to make sure that they get everything they need in. But they have found the biggest lead we've seen at 20 minutes into the game. 5,000 gold lead as XDG comes up on 26,000. And almost an engagement there. A great lantern out by Thresh.
Yeah, so soon to be an Infinity Edge on High. That's going to be a scary thing. But it hasn't necessarily been him being a big factor in this game. It's been the synergy between Balls and Meteos.
Yeah.
The gank they were able to pull off on Benny in the top lane, and then their dive in that dragon fight have really been what's securing them the big advantages. Balls, even though he can get handled by Benny in the 1v1, hasn't let Warwick take much back on the map. You look at that lane, Balls' turret is still standing.
Yeah.
2 of Benny's turrets are gone. Ah, again. There's wind walls.
Wind walls, trying to keep him safe in mid. Something we saw earlier with Benny coming down in the teleport. They got good kills on Lemonation and Sneaky, but it didn't deter them at all. Usually you think the next fight would kind of go, in XDG's favor as well, but Cloud9 knew how to regroup for the fight, putting themselves up with that dragon. It's very hard to come back after losing fights like that and go back and forth every time. Usually it's a team getting a little bit more every time, but Cloud9 does not let that happen.
Not so far this game. We're only 21 minutes in. They had a slow, methodical play against TSM. This one's been pretty standard, not nearly as slow as their game against TSM, and I think they're trying to pull off a bit of a split push here with High farming on the side, which means here comes the initiation.
Oh, Sneaky on the front line, and that means he is going down first. Ball's coming from the backside, and they just get everybody as they try to siege the turret. That's how you do it. You come onto your own turret from the backside, but it looks like XDG finds a bit of ground in this fight. Lemonation very low, stopping High, but he's able to finish out ManCloud, the barrel, taking down Lemonation before he gets hit. Valiantly doing some good damage before he goes down, and still so chaotic, but only 3 for 2.
Yeah, they get the 3 kills because they saw there was no wind wall to block their initiation that time, and they just went all in right away. I don't know. He's just trying to stall.
Wow,
Burns
getting the
flash.
flash out. Not what he wanted there. So High in his aggression loses out on that summoner spell. It looks like Cloud9's able to is forced to regroup now, and that was XDG's chance to really get into a fight. They took down 3, and they did a great job.
They saw their opportunity, and they pounced on it. The Warwick still doesn't even have his wits end, but he is becoming pretty strong man right there. 7,200 gold, actually 1,000 behind what Balls has on Shyvana, but just as impactful in some of these team fights. Warwick always used to say he doesn't need as much gold to be good as other champions. His scaling is just so strong.
Like we said, that time bomb, I'm going to be looking towards another 20 minutes in this game, and you will just see that Warwick.
Well, we'll
zero
see him.
cares.
Yeah, he won't care. It's not like he's going to start blowing people up. He'll just be very difficult to deal with.
He gets his extra set of 4 abilities.
Yeah.
Then he can blow people up. 3-2 in turrets, so not too much map control really is the name of the game here. It's all been within the lanes. The mid turrets mid turret, I should say, still standing for XDG, which is going to help with their buffs a little bit. I don't see that Zuna is really trying to make too much pressure. He had a little bit more pressure on Olaf in the counter ganking, or counter jungling, I should say. But maybe Meteos on the other side doesn't let him do that.
This is a much different game for Zuna. He didn't get the early ganks happening, and now he's just trying to make up for it.
Yeah, got onto High pretty well right there. The body slam and the instant Q barrel. Able to get 3 off of that, and the shutdown right now onto High.
That was all Benny, I feel like. The suppression from the Warwick ult just allowed the rest of them to fly in afterwards and finish him off. High pushing up a bit too far without safety.
See what they're getting wards around. They got pings down towards Baron. Those are only for vision just now. Really not putting out enough damage to cancel that guy out quick enough. So at 24 minutes, 7-7, even in kills, and it's really the next focus. Oh, Meteos looking to Q that Vault Breaker. Almost landed on ManCloud. Guys are testing each other quite a bit right now, seeing who can pressure each other more into making that next mistake.
Yeah, and it's going to turn into a pretty good game here. You can see XDG, since they got the kill onto High, was able to take that turret back. They're really pulling this one around. If we get a dragon fight next, which we probably won't because the timing is just off, it would have been a good time for XDG to come back into this one. As it is now, Cloud9's going to get it, and it's actually going to slow down the game a little bit. This isn't a point of contention.
I really like the focus of Meteos here. Always on those champions that can get himself in the team, but also helping with the locket of the Iron Solari if high or balls on Shyvana or Yasuo need that extra shield when they're in deep on the back line.
Ooh, Benny took a lot of damage up there in the top lane as well. So Ball's fighting back with that Blade of the Ruined King active. Now Warwick has to heal up a little bit. And this could be another opportunity here for XDG to find that fight. Bloodwater doesn't quite have his flash yet on Annie, but that was a very potent initiation for him the last time he did it.
Lemon Nation trying to use the Fog of War here to his advantage on the side. Meteos on the out, he gets caught, he's forced to Vault Breaker in. Assault and Battery as well. High going down very low, and they're taking a bit too much damage at the start of this fight, but they trade back 2 kills, quick kills instantly. Easy enough for me to say, and they keep going on the fight. Those 2 kills were perfect. Zuna almost goes down. He actually clicks back on accident. It's enough for Sneaky to hit the shot. He nets and flashes into position. 3-1 now. That was just a 3 for 2 in favor of XDG.
Completely turned on its head right there. Yes, they got a start on the Meteos, but he's a very tanky guy right there. Didn't actually use his Lock of the Iron Solari.
Wow.
Maybe could have lived. Even so, Cloud9 just powering through.
Benny trying to do what he can on the front line, but he's only going to be taking a bit of damage. It looks like they get the turret without any worry. It's going to be on the Sneaky. They play him off. Can they get enough damage? And they finalize the kill. Great reaction time there by Lemon Nation to keep his AD carry alive. The follow-up kills coming from high. The Thresh Lantern out. And Boss is going to be safe from burnout and the Ascension.
XDG went about a quarter second too early for that one because they had the support coming in Xmithy and Bloodwater, but it ended up just costing them both of their solo laners' lives. So even though XDG had done so much to claw their way back into the game, they just lost it all right there. Cloud9 was able to turn right back around because, honestly, XDG came right to them, and Cloud9 turned it around beautifully.
Meteos looked like he got himself caught, but they just have so much confidence behind their team and what they're doing. They were able to, that fight went from coast to coast. It did start down by Cloud9's second tier mid turret, and then ended up at XDG's turret with them losing more people. An unfortunate situation. As you said, the cookie's crumbling in the favor of Cloud9 in every instance here, and we're even seeing the fights go back and forth, but just too much in the favor of Cloud9 that time. It's all up to XDG now to really take back the driver's seat and use this time to figure out how Cloud9 is getting around their defense.
Yeah, well, they're getting through a lot of it because they got 2 Last Whispers completed right now. That's a huge amount of itemization for High. Picked up a bunch of gold in that last fight. He's actually sitting at 1,120 tops in the game. So not only did he have a good laning phase, he's had an even better roaming and team fight phase. That last fight in particular was a huge boon for him. And now they can actually do this Baron with a little bit of peace of mind if they want to start doing the baits back and forth, or just Shirelia's in and try to make it happen.
They wanted Zuna pretty hard there. Great cast coming out from ManCloud. Saves the day for a quick second. Not too long of a cooldown on that. We'll see them getting back into each other's face in just a quick tick. Zanya's finished up for ManCloud, and he's had that for quite some time. The only times he's used it, he's actually gone down after, so it's really not proving useful for him just yet, but nothing else is really going to.
It's really hurt his Gragas build. You see most Gragases get the death cap very early, and he basically turns into a burst caster. Since he had to go with the Zanyas, his damage has actually been dropped fairly substantially, and he has not been able to make the impact he normally would on Gragas.
Wits End finally finished up on Benny. It's something we saw Darian building up. I'm actually happy it's back. It's kind of one of my favorite items. I like Wits End.
Everybody loves my favorite item.
Everybody loves attack speed. How can you not? 12-8 in this matchup. And that attack speed hopefully is starting to help Benny as he gets into that tankier part of the game, because it is an 8,000 gold lead that Cloud9 has right now, and it's really spread nicely across their entire composition. Nobody's focused power right now, and even Lemon Nation has 9 assists, so that's going to be helping him out a lot.
Yeah, plus he's almost maxed out on cooldown reduction there with the Talisman and the Boots of Lucidity. So that's a lot of hooks, a lot of plays, and a lot of control in team fights. Meteos was hoping to hop over a wall, but he got spotted by that ward.
We see Benny now take it to the bottom lane.
Yep.
He's going to get a bit of a split push on here as
we're getting forced into a bit of a play right here because there's the Warwick in the top lane, so either Cloud9 goes for Baron, Dragon, or they send someone for Benny. I think since Cloud9 likes to take action, they're going to be going for this Baron first and foremost.
The ward is there on the other side, at least for XDG to see. No, it gets cleared out. And this will not be helping them. Benny in the bottom. He has teleport up. They could be ready for this one. Looks like they are going to be able to drop the turret, but is it enough time to know how much health Baron has? It is not. It is taken. The teleport now happens, and he's going to be on the backside of this fight. Maybe they decide to figure out how the pinch works. No, he stopped his teleport. They are able to get in. They throw Smithy into the flame there. Very nice job getting him to the backside of the fight. Looks like Cloud9 is going to be able to push on.
Benny's very sad right now. He's just standing there after his teleport was canceled, probably from his own use right there. A lot of times if you try to spam click right as you're teleporting, you'll cancel your own teleport.
Yep.
Not sure what happened there or if it was an intentional, but even so, the Baron was taken before anything could have had a big impact, and now Cloud9 has a nearly unstoppable push down the mid lane.
Let's see, well, they will take the turret, and it is going to be the inhibitor next. If that Lantern hit, there would have been Nexus turrets to follow after this, but with that Gragas being up, the full 4 around him, or full 3, I should say, Smithy up in 1 second, they can't not do much.
No, they have continued to cascade their advantage here. Yeah, they gave up 1 turret to Benny, but it was for much more great gain. Plus, they can just take a dragon on their way out. Oh, is he going to grab Lantern? Come on, man. It's right there. Get it. No!
Oh, bus driver closed the doors. See where they can go from this. The Dragon's only going to help the pile of gold that sits in the back of their fancy car right now. They are ahead a nice, cool 12,000 gold, and that's nothing to be worried about. If you're on XDG, however, it is very hard to get by any of that. You can see, talked about it before, the double static Shiv, Infinity Edge to Bloodthirster, so somebody's got the crit damage and somebody has to sustain to stay in the fight. And these guys, like I said, with that Lock of the Iron Solari, and then Meteos builds the Banshee's Veil, they're starting to become completely unkillable, and Benny is losing people that he can ult in these fights.
Yeah, Benny, in order for the Warwick to work, other people actually have to be getting things low.
Right.
And him sitting in the fight needs to be an active distraction. At this point, since Cloud9 has just caught a few people out of position or just chased down the squishies, they've been able to largely ignore Benny. And it has not worked out for them. I think the pick itself has been good for XDG,
right,
but the team performance has not been.
Definitely have to be forcing more fights, but how can you do that? The other team is so far ahead, and you know it's a straight loss 5-on-5. You get the split, you use the Fog of War to your advantage, and you use the Gragas ult to get high right in the spot you need him. They're going to throw it in the box. This is a big fight here for XDG, and they need to come out on top, but even with the turret on their backside is another member of the team. It's Sneaky and crew to wipe them out, push them off their own base here and just the outside. And it looks like they're able to continue. The Baron taking away has really given them a huge advantage, along with positioning.
Hey, as nice as the catch was on to High, there was no Smithy there to capitalize. So even after they killed him, it was still a 4v4 against a team with Baron, which meant 2 people fell on XDG, and they lost their turret. Here comes the continued push.
And this becomes the hardest part. You have the wave you have been waiting for in the top lane, but XDG can't get anywhere near it. Cloud9 is knocking on the front door for a second time here. The second inhibitor looking to go down, doing this methodically as Cloud9 does, and I would not be surprised if they took the time to go top and take everything.
They were not able to get that last inhibitor, only because XGG had respawned and they had actually gotten harassed down quite low amongst all that. But good control, smart counter move.
Yeah.
It's actually a little strange for Cloud9 because normally when they play, at least back in the 2013 season, they were the ones who initiated almost everything, and teams were reacting to them. But in their first game, when they had the Teemo, they set up their traps, their little stupid mushrooms, they were so annoying, and TSM had to consistently come into them over and over again, and that's how they won like a very slow and drawn-out game. And in this one, when XDG made the game close, Cloud9's victories have been very reactionary. We think of the first fight, where the first fight they won way up towards the middle turret of Cloud9 when they got the catch on Meteos. That was XDG's move, and Cloud9 just reacted to it very well. Even the last push for the bottom inhibitor, XDG's move to get on High, but again Cloud9's victory. So instead of them playing extremely aggressive and making all the moves, they're actually reacting a lot more than they used to.
They're the ones that wait for you to make the mistake. It even kind of plays in, like you said, the way they did it with TSM. Knowing that TSM was warding so much, they cleared a ward and hid where they wanted to ward. That's how they caught the odd one a few times.
Yep.
So they really play to their opponent's mistakes, and that's a different way to play when you completely win every game. If your opponent doesn't make a mistake, then it becomes scary. But Cloud9 is exceptional at finding them. Sneaky with blue buff as he heads towards the bottom lane. He doesn't even need it, but they have a lot of things they don't need right now, like a 12,000 gold lead. That's pretty good. 15 to 9 and 8 to 4 in turrets. They still have 3 to drop on the map. It's good for XDG. They got their inhibitor back in mid, but they are all huddled around pretty much a small campfire that is those 2 inhibitors, keeping them alive.
They got to keep those things warm, otherwise they're going to get destroyed right here. Banshee's Go being completed by High makes him very safe. There's a really hard initiation.
Going to the back line. He went for a hell of a ride there. Meteos is there. Everybody's to the back line. Talk about dive buddies in 3, because it's a crowd. Zuna now the focus. He is trying to get himself out. The repel is the only thing to keep him alive for a few more seconds. ManCloud feeling good about the 1v1 onto Sneaky, and that's what they needed, is the DPS to be out of the fight. But look how much power just comes from the auto attacks and the repeated abilities of the Bruiser squad. These 3, Balls, Meteos, and High, just doing work with Lemon on their back.
So that was actually kind of cool. Vi knocks everyone aside when she goes for a target, which made way for the ace in the hole, and that's one of the huge things that just destroyed Xsmithy in that fight. It means both inhibitors are going to go down. Maybe the game here, because they still got 4 people alive to 2 defenders.
35 minutes in the game. This is very much more so Cloud9-esque. Their 34 to 35-minute average game time becomes a little bit more true. They look to win their 2nd game of the North American Spring Split here in 2014.
Whoa! A little bit more damage, and that could be the Nexus right there, trying to get some kills at the end.
Everybody loves a little bit of KDA. The culling on the fadeaway, not enough to grab High. Meteos looking happy. A quick high five to High, and all around the horn for Cloud9.
2-0 on the first day of LCS for these guys after playing 2 of their biggest competitors. They took out not only TSM, but now XDG, the numbers 2 and 3 teams from last split. So Cloud9, I mean, as expected, they were the #1 team last split, but those are 2 solid wins for them.
A good game coming in still for XDG, but like you said, headhunted now for Cloud9. Teams have their eyes on that spot. A lot of teams started this week. Every team started this week in first place, but now really Cloud9 can be the one to say that. Nobody else has 2 wins.
2-0 on their way to 4-0. Fnatic is the only other undefeated team in the European LCS there. Cloud9 hoping to start with a super week flawlessly like they did in the 2013 summer split. And if I'm Vulcan, I'm not feeling too bad about that. Yes, they made some over-initiation plays, but they did kind of have Cloud9 on the ropes for a little while. Zuna didn't have the same game he had in game 1, but that was a close competitive game throughout.
And a thing to see that really sparks my interest with Cloud9 is when they went through that first week, when they went undefeated last split, I think it's a lot of the same champions. I think we had 5 Zacs for Meteos or 4 Zacs for Meteos. Everybody's been switching it up. It's the same Cloud9 with wins, but it's a different Cloud9 in play.
Yeah, especially from High. He's the one who's really taken it on to change a lot of the other things about him. I think Cloud9 probably hasn't changed anything too core to their beliefs. They will still have their kind of tier list of champions and continue to pick those.
With a little more now.
That's why they pick throw so quickly down, but just be a little harder to ban out. They've found their weak spots that are bannable, and it looks like they're starting to patch them up.
So XDG, you could kind of see that they knew what they wanted to do in that game, but they weren't able really to ever to get it to work. The teleports were beautiful when they did happen, with the ults coming in on the top side from Benny. And I want to say, and I don't want to bring too much attention to it, but I feel like Benny did that on Shen as well, going into the playoffs. He moved his Shen, and he didn't get the teleport off.
Well, that was a bug.
Well,
you can't cancel Shen ult intentionally.
Well, no, he's teleporting.
No, teleport is different than Shen.
Well, I know he was on Shen, but he was teleporting. That's what I'm saying.
We'll see this one, Riv. Anyway, yes, he made that one teleport mistake up at the top lane, but that wasn't necessarily. He wouldn't have done anything because he was too late. It was a team call that they were late with that one.
And it seemed like he was coming in late anyways, even if he was.
They were very late on that last call, which was an unfortunate thing for the Baron.
They didn't have vision, and that had been cleared out quite a bit. We saw when Cloud9 wanted Dragon, they had 2 pink wards down immediately. When they wanted Baron, they walked up and put 2 pink wards down immediately. So they knew they had complete vision. Even if it was surrounding them, it wasn't right on top of them.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that was a very competitive game for about the first 20 minutes. Cloud9 did control the Dragons a little bit better. And at the end of the day, I think the Yasuo pick was played very well by High, and the Gragas is not a good thing to go up against it.
No, now we know that. However.
Yeah, another thing to learn with Halo.
We're going to take a quick break right now, but there's still way more action to come. When we return, we'll dive into our next game as Team Solo Mid squares off against Evil Geniuses. Don't go anywhere.